Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. What will I learn today and who will I meet today? How will I communicate with them? A couple of questions I always put into my head at the start of the day. I love learning and obviously love meeting new people and interacting with people. But the challenge, of course, with meeting people, contacting people, communicating effectively is that we often get it wrong. It's one of those really complicated things because everybody that you meet is a different person. So are there rules for great communication so that you can communicate effectively with everybody? Or is the best rule of all that everybody's different? And could it be a really good idea to find out about the person before we try and communicate with them? So there's a great place to start. When you meet somebody, if you want to be confident in every conversation, or have you ever felt nervous about going into a conversation? It might be that you're meeting the parents, or you're going on a hot date, or you're meeting an expert or a famous person or a doctor or somebody who thinks you know what you're talking about, so you feel like I've got to communicate effectively. Well, could a great place to start be that you ask the questions so that you are in control of the conversation? And it's one of those things that people often ask me, Rowie, you're in conversations with people all day, every day. And yes, I can brag and say I've met famous people and billionaires and elite athletes and really smart doctors, and I communicate regularly with the medical professionals. And I'm talking top-level medical professionals, so oncologists, cardiologists, psychologists, neuroscientists. And I only have a Year 9 education at school, so I could be very nervous about going into conversations with those people, but I'm not. And that's why people ask me, Rowie, how come you seem so confident in communication? Well, of course, confidence comes from doing things over and over, but does it come from doing the same thing over and over? Does it come from me doing the talking? Or could confidence come from me asking lots of questions so I'm constantly learning? And it's one of the things about if you want people to respect you, it's something I've learnt the hard way and something that I watch other people do on a regular basis and I experience on a regular basis that can be very uncomfortable and confrontational and can get you into deep, deep trouble. There's a great pre-frame. If you don't know who you're talking to, and so the really important part of any conversation is find out who it is, which you can't do if you don't communicate by asking questions. But let's say you're going to meet somebody. At least Google them, YouTube them, have a look at what's going on with that person so you know what their qualifications are, what their life experience is, what they've done, what they've achieved. Because a lot of people go into conversations assuming that the person, and I'll use myself as an example, I have a lot of people who preach at me, tell me what to do when it comes to food and exercise, but they don't know anything about me. They don't know that food and exercise have been my driving, learning, life experience for over 40 years. And that can put them in a very uncomfortable situation because people preach at me or tell me what to do, and then they might realise halfway through the conversation, because of the questions that I'm asking, that they've got themselves into a bit of deep water. Now, I'm just going to put a bit of a side note in there. I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable, and I don't want to make anybody feel awkward. And it's something that I've, again, had to learn the hard way, because often I would ask questions, but it would make people feel really uncomfortable. So if I've got in my headspace that this person doesn't know what they're talking about, or they really don't understand anatomy, or they really don't understand how the energy systems work, or they really don't understand what food is actually made out of, I could ask them uncomfortable questions and make them feel really silly, but I don't do that because I don't want to do that to anybody. So there's the second step. Number one is ask lots of questions. Number two is aim to make people feel good. And there's a great way to leave every conversation, every communication. Does this person feel better because they came in contact with me? And that comes to emails, text messages, face-to-face communication, telephone calls. Wouldn't it be nice that if every time somebody came in contact with you, they felt better? They felt as if you had added value to their life, not removed value. So it'd be very easy, and there's that great question, is it better to be nice or to be right? And so what if you're right and you make somebody else feel ridiculous because they've made some stupid comments and now you've proved that they're stupid? What's the value in that? I don't want people to feel stupid. I would love to add value to somebody's life by asking questions that might get them to think a little bit differently, so that perhaps next time they don't ask or they don't make stupid statements, But there's some things to think about. So I'll just use a simple example because this happened to me today. Somebody made a comment about macronutrients and that carbohydrate was really fattening. And I don't want to get into the argument because they were very passionate about that and they really believed it. But I did ask the question, I said, just for interest's sake, what is it that carbohydrate is made out of? What's it actually made out of? Now, I wouldn't ask that question of somebody if I didn't think that they should know the answer. And this person was a medical person, so they should know the answer. And now I would like them to think a little bit about what makes carbohydrate fattening. And the reason for that, of course, is that carbohydrate is made of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. And what's fat made out of? Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. So it's an interesting conversation. I'm just using that as an example. So any conversation that you go into, please know who it is that you're talking to. Ask questions rather than tell. Could that be a really good idea? So that you don't get into trouble. And there's an even better question there. If I'm asking questions versus I have to answer questions, who's in control of the conversation? So if you're going on a hot date or you're going on a career interview, if you're going to meet people that you don't know, if you're going to meet your in-laws, excuse me, would it be a really good idea to be in control of the conversation rather than you having to be controlled? And the reason for that is if you're answering questions, is it more likely that you'll make a fool of yourself or you'll say something stupid, versus if I'm asking questions, then I'm in control of the conversation. Now, the next part of that is if I'm asking questions, I'm learning. If I'm repeating information, if I'm just making statements, is it possible that all I'm doing is gas coming out of my mouth and I'm just repeating what I already know? What can I possibly learn? Not just about the other person, but about anything, because I'm just repeating what I already know. So could it be a really good idea if you want to get better, wiser, stronger, tougher, more logical, get more common sense, just learn more? Could it be a really good idea to ask questions? If I'm asking questions, I'm in control of the conversation. Now, the next part of that is these two words that I always use. There's interested versus interesting. And a lot of people think they have to be interesting. So they go into a conversation thinking of all the exciting things they can talk about and all the information they can deliver and the great topics that they can share and the life experience that they've had. And they talk because they're all very interesting. Better question. Who do we actually find interesting? Have you ever been in a conversation where the person's talking about themselves and you're bored to tears? You're trying not to yawn. You learnt to yawn through your ears. You can't understand why this person's talking. You didn't ask the question. They just talk. Whoa. Versus if I ask a question and I'm genuinely interested in the answer, is it possible that that person will feel that I am interesting? Not only am I interested in what they've got to say, but I'm more interesting because I'm interested in them, not me talking about me. And I've learnt this the hard way, and it might be uncomfortable to say, but nobody's interested in me. Nobody's interested in you either. People might be very interested in what you can do for them. But is it possible that people actually want to talk about themselves? They don't want to listen to you talking about you. So if I'm asking questions, that person will be talking about themselves. If I then lean forward, maintain eye contact, open body language, and actively listen, which is the listening techniques of all the experts will share with us, is it possible that I will learn more because the person will keep talking? And I think that's a really important thing to consider. Do I want people to be interested in me? Do I need to be interesting, or do I need to be interested in other people? And I think it's a really great question. And if you want to communicate effectively, could it be a really good idea to consider who you're talking to, ask the question so you're in control of the conversation, be genuinely interested in learning. And this is why it becomes so easy, because it's quite selfish. I'm asking questions of other people because I want to learn. I find them very interesting because I want to learn more. If I go into a conversation because I want to get my point across, I want to give my opinion, I want to make statements, I want to tell people about me, it's very selfish on my part. But if I go into a conversation and I'm genuinely interested in the other person because I want to learn, is it possible that we now have a win-win? If I'm talking and the other person's not interested, we have a lose-win. The other person's losing, I'm winning because I get to talk about myself, but ultimately that person will never listen to me again because I was boring. All I did was talk about myself. If I'm genuinely interested in the other person because I want to learn, there's a big win for me, but there's a big win for the other person because they get to talk to somebody that's actually interested in what they've got to say. Interested. And I think that's one of the things missing in communication. Have you ever felt that, where you've talked to somebody and they just seemed disinterested? They were not interested in what you had to say. There's this thing called shoulder tennis, where somebody's looking over your shoulder looking for somebody better to talk to or somebody better to be involved with because they're bored with you. I don't know why you would keep talking in that situation because the person obviously doesn't want to be there. And I don't want to be involved in conversations like that. What a waste of time for me and for them. So what if we consider win-win in a conversation? If I want to learn, I need to ask questions. If the other person's talking, they will feel that I'm interested in them, so now we have a win-win. That's why I'm comfortable in every conversation. I can talk to a world leader, a medical professional, a lawyer, a famous person, an elite athlete, me with my meagre education of year 9, and I say that with sarcasm because I've been learning every day since I left school. Up until year 9 when I was in school, I didn't learn very much because I hated it. Since I've left school, all I've considered to do constantly is how can I learn, how can I get better, how can I become stronger, wiser, better. And does that come from me doing the talking? How can it? Because I'm just repeating what I already know. If I want to learn, if I want to get better, I have to ask questions and listen. And could that be the ultimate form of communication? So that's what Romax is all about, and that's what I'm here for every day, because I'm learning every day. So if I can share information, that's a win-win, because I feel like I could add value to the world, and the information that I deliver is based on what I'm learning. And I really appreciate that you come to Romax, so thank you. My name's Rowie and this is Romax. But the purpose of Romax is not to deliver information, it's to ask the questions that get not just you to think, but me to think. I have to think. When I ask a question, it's not just you answering the question, I answer my own question. Am I healthy, fit and strong? Do I have a career or business that I love? Am I financially free? Do I have great people in my life? That's the purpose of Romax. And the last one, which is about people, how can I expect to have great people in my life if I'm not interested in other people, if I'm not interested in win-win, if I don't genuinely care about learning, if I don't genuinely care about the other person that I'm listening to, how could I possibly have great relationships? So live your life to the max every single day. Wouldn't it be nice to learn and to have great communication and learn stuff from other people? Learn and have great communication so that people add value to your life and you add value to theirs. Because here's my last question. When was the last time that somebody listened to you talk without interrupting, without passing judgment, without giving an opinion, just being genuinely interested in what you had to say? They leant forward, maintained eye contact, they had open body language, they listened to everything that you said without making comment, they just actively listened. And could they paraphrase back, which is the last part of great communication, so that when somebody has a conversation with you, you listen to what they say so carefully that you could actually repeat back what they said, paraphrase, not word for word, and you remember it for next time so that you have the ability to make them feel special next time because you remembered what they said in the last conversation. Could that be a max way to live your life? Thank you for coming to Romax, and may every day you be able to sing like I do. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I've got this magical feeling that I'm going to learn stacks today. Woohoo! Ha ha.